Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate. And it does it with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, I know from my experience as a trial attorney that there was almost no training on how to negotiate, at least not in law school. You had to learn it out in the real world with experience. Does that also apply to your industry?
Absolutely. And more, I'm getting questions from sellers about negotiating, especially when it comes to buyer's agents' commissions or if the offer is asking for concessions and closing cost or reducing the price below asking price. Then they're starting to think twice about, wait, why am I paying the agent to beat me up on price or concessions? What does that do for me? It's a really good question. And it's fun now because it's a lot more negotiable. But we've got a balanced market. However, it's not a declining market. If you compare it to a place like Florida, I looked at the stats this morning in Florida, and wow, there's some areas that are dropping by 17%. That's a big number. But we're not seeing that here along the Front Range. So, in a hot market, things are flying off the shelf, and that was a good time, and everybody's flying high. If you're a home seller, it was terrible if you're a home buyer because you had to bid way over asking price just to get a house, and on top of that, you had to bid against all these hedge funds like BlackRock and stuff were competing against live in the home buyers with cash. So it was kind of tough at the time. But now that it's starting to normalize more, there is some negotiation that takes place. And I think a lot of buyers just automatically assume that, especially the buyer's agent, that a discount is in order for their buyer. Like I had one agent a few weeks ago that made an offer on one of my listings, and she came in below asking price. She asked for 10,000 in closing costs to be paid by the seller, and she wanted 3% commission. And so we were in the process of countering her offer to say no, no, and no. And you know, she called me on the phone and said, well, your counter proposal is too low, especially the amount of commission. It wasn't about her buyer. And I'm like, wow, your buyer's already in love and wants to make an offer, and you're putting yourself in between the buyer and them getting the house with your fee. And so it's more fun right now with the negotiating front. And fortunately for the seller, another buyer came along during that time and made a much better offer. And so she was out. Too bad. So here's the thing. There are negotiations that take place pretty much across the board. It's not a set fee that goes on. The seller decides on pricing, the agent decides on marketing and position the home, and the whole idea is to set them up for success as best as you can. And marketing is really falls in the lap of mostly the listing agent's job. But a lot of agents out there that are showing buyers, they may not really have the expertise or the experience about negotiating or what the home is worth. We see that when the sellers actually put up cameras in their home, which I think is a great idea when they do this, they will have agents come in with their buyers and say things like, oh, this home is not worth that much. And I'm like, well, how do they know? Or they'll come in and look at a home that's already priced very, very aggressively because of some condition issues and state that it's overpriced. Well, that would tell me they really don't know the market, right? Because if we're getting dozens and dozens of showings in just a week or so, then there's nothing wrong with the pricing. There's something wrong with the agent education about the market. And most agents are rather transactional. They wait until they're in the home. They hope and pray that the buyer wants to buy the house. Then they do their research as to its value or any other kind of information. So it's really important, especially when you're selling a house, to hire somebody that has good expertise. And I just had some agent, gripe at me a couple days ago about my marketing and how it was so inconvenient to not be able to show whenever they wanted to show. And I said, I don't market to agents. I market to buyers. He didn't know what to say. It was kind of funny. So, or I've had some agents do things like, well, if I don't get what I want, I'm going to tell my buyers to terminate. And meaning terminate the contract. And I'm like, at the end of the day, they had this thing about you're supposed to be working for your client to get them what they want. So why are you playing this game with me? Do they want to buy the home or not? And I remember one time during inspection negotiations, this agent asked for $1,000 off the price because it had an old electrical component that was in the garage. And so I just asked him, I said, because the way it works with inspections, if you ask for repairs, it's kind of like, if I don't get these repairs and we don't reach agreement about them by this day, the contract is over and I get my deposit back. So it is kind of a form of a takeaway. So I asked him, are you really going to walk away on this $560,000 sale over $1,000? And he goes, no, but I had to ask for something. So that's their strategy about negotiations. So the premise of this segment is, so how do the home sellers really know, is the buyer's agent working towards a common goal? And I'm not sure that they do. I mean, the buyer's job is to get prepared financially. Then they go look at homes and then they're like, okay, I take it. There'll be a little bit of negotiations that go on. But the problem is some of these agents, their motivation is to get more stuff than even the buyers want, and they kind of lose track on, wait a minute, you're supposed to be getting what the buyer wants and not necessarily, what you want, or to win brownie points to say, I'm a master of the universe. I negotiated for 1,000 off the price. But I will tell you that some of them make these calls and make decisions without even communicating with their clients or with all the parties involved. Just last week, I had somebody request to ask the sellers to move out of their house state to another state a week early. Can you do it? We know for sure the lender can close by last week. And I'm like, okay. So I asked the seller, they said yes. It cost them money. They had to pay movers and rearrange airline tickets and all kinds of stuff. And then a day before it was supposed to close, oh, sorry, the lender can't do it. Well, come to find out, first of all, he didn't tell me they switched lenders. And then when I talked to the lender, there's a certain preparation that takes place, meaning they have to issue what's called a CD to the buyers. And by federal law, that they cannot close until 3 business days after that has been issued. It had not been issued. I don't really think the agent even knew what a CD was, to be honest with you. He was so young and wet behind the ears. And by the way, he didn't show the house. I showed his buyer the house. His buyer said, okay, you're my friend, get me this house, right? So I don't know. It's very frustrating for sellers right now because I think they're like, okay, I don't get what they're doing for us. How are they helping us? And it creates a lot of hassles sometimes, and mostly because they're just not trained, they're not prepared, or it's a part-time job. Even the one that I closed yesterday, the day before and 2 days before that, the title company was asking and asking, hey, when are you guys going to actually come to the finish line and do the closing? No answer. I don't know. It's like you're buying a house and you don't know when you're going to show up to do that. I mean, it's just amazing to me the stuff that goes on. So we kind of have to oversee everything and ask all the right questions to make sure that we're helping the seller really get to the finish line and make it work out as best as possible for them. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and I'm the host of this show. And we're kind of talking about, how do home sellers really know they're working with an agent on the other side or even on their side that has the depth of knowledge of how the process works, the negotiations and all that, to end up with a successful sale. And next up, we're going to talk a little bit more about negotiations and, of course, our hot new listings. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And if you are thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719 301 3900. Now, Barb, we're talking about negotiating the sale. What can you tell sellers about how to win during negotiations?
Well, I think the system is a little bit set up not to help them, in that we have to go out there and strike a price, right? That has to be put out there. How much do you want for that house? And so it actually makes it gives the seller a little bit kind of on the defensive out of the gate because the buyers, first of all, assume that they're going to accept the asking price. They don't have to accept the asking price. They don't have to accept any offer. So there's a lot of things that take place, and it really depends on whether or not the seller has other options. If they have other offers, it really puts them in a very good position to negotiate and get the best deal that works for them. If they don't have other offers, they don't necessarily have to accept that offer. Recently, I had one where I told the seller to pass on an offer. It wasn't a bad offer, but it was contingent on a home selling. And when I did my research to see if the home sold or if the home was sellable, it was on the market, but it was way overpriced. I'm like, no, you'll be waiting a long time. I wouldn't do it. So then they ended up getting a better offer in just a short period of time. But you see crazy stuff during negotiation. Like I had one agent recently say, well, we want $10,000 off the price because your roof is more than 10 years old. And I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. So it's kind of fun to see what they're thinking and what they're planning on doing. But at the end of the day, it's the seller decision on what they will accept and what they won't accept. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call. This is our area of expertise at 719 301 3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
So, Barb, let's get to the favorite part of the program for you. That is telling us about your hot new listings. What do you have this week?
Well, Richard, I have a really cute home in Woodland Park, 725 West Highway 24. It's in great shape. It has beautiful views, priced at just 3099, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 3 living rooms, plenty of place to play with spectacular views. And then featured this weekend, actually right after the show, 12 to 1, we're going to hold 1150 War Eagle Drive North open. It's priced at $649,999. Beautiful home, remodeled in great shape. We're already getting lots of calls on that. Also, this afternoon, we're going to feature open from 2 to 3, 3969 Topsail Drive. And that home has also been beautifully remodeled, priced in the low fives. A really cute starter home on 3465 Mosswood Drive is open today. We have a gorgeous house that has been updated on 2516 West Willamette. Actually has 2 lots on it, priced in the low fours. A gorgeous house on Beckham Street that backs to open space in Peyton. An amazing home that backs to land owned by NORAD on Broadmoor Bluffs. And then a stunning home, actually, 16145 Open Sky Way in prestigious High Forest Ranch, priced at $2,199,999, and then a couple of great lots up in Teller County. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call at 719 301 3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You've been listening to Your Real Estate Voice. It airs every Saturday at a new time, 11 until 12, right after Cudlow. If you're thinking of making a move, call Barb 719 301 3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. And remember, you can see replays of the show on Barb's YouTube channel, Barb Has the Buyers, or listen to the podcast on all of the podcast platforms, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, many, many others. Thanks for listening. To reach out to Barb, again, that number is 719 301 3900. Barb, you have a great week, a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, and happy Mother's Day.